Good morning, Facebook, and wherever else on the internet you may be seeing it. I'm Travis Egan, my mortgage guy with Hancock Mortgage Partners, and today is a local business spotlight. I'm grateful to have my friend with me, Jim File from Sierra Financial Services. Thank you, Jim.
Travis, thanks for inviting me to talk a little bit today. It's always fun to share ideas with other business professionals, and hopefully it reaches out to some people that gives them an idea. Hey, I need to talk about this. Where do I turn?
Right. So tell me a little bit about your background, right? So you've been doing financial planning for how long?
I've been in the industry for about 7 years now. Our firm locally, Sierra Financial Services, there are 4 of us. We work as a team, and we've got over 80 years of experience in the office. So we work together to bounce ideas off each other, talk about client scenarios, find the right product that fits the client's needs. We're an independent agency, so we're not captive to one carrier or another. We have got multiple solutions, whether it's for Medicare, whether it's for investments, whether it's for life insurance. No matter what the client needs or desires, we have the ability to go out and find the right solution, and we're not tied down to one particular vendor or another.
Okay, so that actually brings up a really good question. I've started to get the question from some of my customers. I know that like in the fall, there's a big thing that goes on with Medicare. Tell me a little bit about that. Forgive me for my ignorance. What goes on in the fall with Medicare?
So Medicare has their annual election period for Medicare Advantage plans, and you're going to see a ton of commercials. They've already started, but about every other commercial from now until December 7th is going to talk about Medicare supplements or Medicare Advantage or Medicare Part D drug plans. You'll see all the major carriers on every television station, a lot of radio stations. You know, it's that time of year. Medicare has an annual election period from October 15th through December 7th, where people can make changes to their Advantage and Part D plans that are then effective January 1st of the next year. So you're going to see a lot of commercials. They're a great starting point to get some general information, raise awareness that you have this opportunity to take a look. But then at Sierra, we have multiple carriers. So every Medicare decision is very personal to the individual. What your brother or aunt or uncle or sister or cousin has really doesn't have any impact on you, because in the Advantage and Part D worlds, they're county by county plans.
So someone lived in Waukesha wouldn't necessarily matter for Walton County.
Completely different plans, completely different structure. Some carriers have a plan in Waukesha County and don't have one in Walworth County. So it's very, very specific to county, and it takes time to understand what is available and how does it fit what I need today.
Well, and I've always found that, and maybe it's just my patience as I've gotten older, I get to a point where some of that stuff just is so overwhelming. Like all of the information that comes at you at once. So I tend to always want to rely on an expert, right? Like someone who's a pro who could, kind of get through the fodder of it all and just say, okay, what's important to me and why, and here's what I need, and then they can sift all the other stuff out for me.
And I totally agree. I don't pull my own teeth. I don't fix my own car, because both of those would be very bad ideas. Same thing when we're talking about Medicare or Social Security or retirement planning or whatever the subject is find someone who's got some expertise, and it's so much easier to sit face to face rather than on the computer or over the phone or on an internet connection, because it's really a very personalized decision on what you need, whether it's Medicare or anything else, to talk it out, to put different scenarios and really talk what if this happens and what if that happens, and really go through that, because there are so many factors that go into, and we'll just use Medicare since we're talking about it. Do I travel out of state? Am I a snowbird? What's my prescription list? Where's my doctor? Is my doctor even accepting Medicare? All of these things that you may or may not be able to get just from a television commercial or a radio ad or just a pamphlet that shows up randomly in the mail, which
it's coming.
It's coming. People that are 64 and a half, get ready, because every insurance company knows your birthday, so you're going to start getting literature from everybody. So get a couple of grocery bags out, be ready to recycle some material.
So what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that really it's individualized, and really maybe the best way to go about it for either yourself or for someone that you love would be schedule a time, whether with you or one of your team members, sit down, have a discussion, and put a plan together that's specific to their needs at the time.
And we've got clients that husband might have a Medicare supplement plan and the wife has Medicare Advantage. So totally different ways of attacking the same thing of healthcare, two different roads that get you to the same place in general. But it's really, do the internet research, listen to the commercials. I do some workshops and classes at some of the local schools. Come out, hear some information, go to another one, and really take the time to understand some of the terminology, get a few general concepts, then come see somebody and sit down and go, this is what our family's all about. These are the medical issues we have today. Maybe you don't have any, but we don't know what's going to come tomorrow. So we talk about all those things, or what might happen 5 years from now, and all those things that go into it. And it's so personalized that it's hard to do over the phone or just watching a television commercial and go, oh yeah, that looks great, I'm just going to take that.
Well, and I've found for me, and I assume it's the same for you, when I'm working with customers of a certain age, they don't want to do that stuff online. They don't want to do it on the phone. They will if they have to, if they're forced to, but they would much prefer to have that face-to-face person that they can sit down with, talk to, and get the answer to. And frankly, if it's a family member, right? So maybe it's not you, maybe it's your mom or your dad or your cousin or your aunt or your uncle or someone that's close to you. And it would be nice that you had someone that you could trust, that you could lean on to say, well, let's sit down, let's schedule time and sit down with a pro to really make sure that we'll put ourselves in the best plan. I know you shared with me that sometimes you'll have customers come in, they'll be with company A, let's say, and then because of the volume and the work that you do, you're able to get them a better coverage with the same plan, with the same company,
yeah.
Better coverage, same and cheaper.
Yeah, there's always trade-offs, and there's some new Medicare rules that are in effect for people turning 65 after January 1st of 2020. Things change. Everybody's got their own lives that they're leading, whether they're working, they're retired, they've got grandkids, whatever it might be. That's where the expertise of coming in, sitting down, having a cup of coffee, and talking it out, drawing it on the whiteboard, and spending that time of, what if we do this? What if we do that? To really get a feel for who you are as a client, what your goals are, and not just, well, here's what I have, take it or leave it. That's where having the ability, I represent 7 different Medicare supplement companies, 6 different Medicare Advantage carriers, and 8 different Part D drug plan carriers. So
that's kind of covered the vast majority.
That's about 99% of what we see. And it's because of that independence and having the ability to customize something for each client, each family member, is really a big reason why I came into the independent agent world and joined Sierra.
Well, and that's awesome. So we've talked about healthcare, right? Medicare is kind of on the healthcare side. Let's talk a little bit on the Social Security side.
Sure.
So give me, say someone is coming towards Social Security, or maybe they're in Social. Is there things that you can do or your firm can do that would help them?
We talk a whole lot about Social Security because it is, the baseline guaranteed income source for retired adults. But there's a lot of different options and a lot of different rules behind it. You can access Social Security in most situations at age 62. But if you access at 62, you're going to take a discount of your value for the rest of your life. So we're able to use software to calculate, if I take Social Security early, how long do I have to live to recoup the lost dollars by taking it early, or does it make more sense for my budget and my lifestyle to wait a little bit? And then you put in all the rules and scenarios around divorce and widows and disability. It becomes a little bit complicated. And with that,
not a little, I think it's a lot complicated.
And with that being your, for many people, that might be their primary source of retirement income. For others, it's their baseline. We really want to make the right decision to optimize that up front versus applying and then trying to undo it later and needing to pay money back, or making a choice that tax-wise doesn't make any sense just with I heard that Social Security is going bankrupt, I better take my benefit today. Well, that might not be the best strategy. And again, it's individualized. Am I still working? There's rules around income limitations. What happens if I do wait a little bit longer? And can I switch to a spousal benefit later? All of these things we're able to sit down with clients, take into account their entire situation, work, other accounts, properties they own, and what their lifestyle goals are going to be. And that's really the most important thing. What are your plans over the next 25 to 35 years, and make the decision in a big long-term scenario versus, well, I heard on TV from somebody talking on the news that Social Security is going bankrupt, I better take it. That's probably not a really good strategy.
Not a good strategy.
We should sit down, again, put it on the whiteboard, talk about what ifs, maybes, incorporate our 401ks or IRAs or rental property, and really talk about the total picture and not just one piece. And that's why I developed this card. It's kind of a...
Here, I'm going to lift it up so you can see it closer.
It's a puzzle. Everybody has their own puzzle. Every family has their own puzzle about all the little pieces, whether it's healthcare, whether it's retirement savings, whether it's taxes, life insurance, all of these things. Everybody has a big puzzle or a Rubik's Cube where you're trying to move things around. You'd like all the sides to be one color, or especially green, but it doesn't always happen. So taking that time to sit down, taking an hour to talk about it with a professional. A lot of times we spend more time planning birthday parties than we do our own financial futures.
Guilty. I think I'm guilty of that.
I think everybody could say, yeah, I would probably do that. So with life expectancy, approaching 85 and 90 for people, we really got to think long-term and sit down, take the time, lay everything out, and work with a professional that you trust has your best interest.
Is there a best time? So if you're coming into that Social Security window, is there a best time to kind of start to have that discussion so you can properly plan?
I like to tell people that if you think you're about 5 years out from even thinking about it or retirement, at least come and talk and start learning the ins and outs. Because now that helps you those last 5 years of work careers to go, maybe I need to save more, maybe I'm okay, and those are the scenarios we can also run too, is kind of put a stress test to what you already have of, am I okay? Or, oh my, I want to do this and this and this in retirement, and I'm not ready for that. I might have to work 2 or 3 more years. Knowing that earlier is much better than, well, I want to retire next month. Can I? Well, that's kind of a short time frame. So always want to be, 3 to 5 years ahead of the curve. So if adjustments need to be made, they can be.
So let's talk about that. We've talked about healthcare. We've talked about Social Security. Let's talk a little bit about retirement planning, right? Is there ever a time to start retirement planning too soon?
No, when you have your first job at age 20, because at some point, whether you retire of your own accord or you can't work anymore, a disability, layoff, whatever it is, we're all going to retire at some point. So it's never too early to start thinking about it. Because when you retire, your paycheck stops. Well, now you have to generate a paycheck for 20 years, 30 years, maybe 40 years without working. So It's really an exercise that starts in your early 20s. Everybody has different scenarios and bills, and everybody's got a different puzzle. But yeah, start in the early 20s. But you really want to start getting focused around as early as age 50, because you're in your prime earning years. You've got fewer work years ahead of you than behind you, and you just want to get a plan, get an outline, get something started to say, oh yeah, I'm on track, or oh boy, I'm not on track. Something happened, market downturn, medical issue, something popped up. How do I get back on track?
Well, and one of the things, I've heard this quote in other arenas, but I think it is applicable here as well, is when is the best time to start your retirement plan? Well, in your 20s. When's the next best time? Today, right? Like the next best time is today. Sooner the better.
Absolutely. Just even if it's $50 or $100 at a time, the earlier you start, you get that whole power of compounding behind you. And the statistics and the shows that, if you invest early and stop versus start later but invest more, that time of compounding, you'll actually have more money by starting earlier. And if you have to stop, you've got a better chance than starting later with more money.
Well, and so that's, once again, that's the benefit of meeting with a professional like yourself, is that you can help them put that plan together, whatever that may look like.
Absolutely. And we work with people that are early 20s, 30s, 50s, 70s. There's no age limitation to putting together a good strategy. But, in almost every situation, the earlier the better, even if it's just to get an outline of, okay, here's a couple of big things I need to look for. Get in and put that strategy down on paper so you've got something to go back to.
Now, you had mentioned something earlier that is really kind of near and dear to my heart. I've just seen it have a really important impact on customers of mine, and that's disability income, right? So they have a situation where, and I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, I read the statistic many, many years ago. It was something like you're 3 or 4 times more likely to have a disability than to perish. And what do you do in those scenarios for disability? So do you have any strategies or tools to help people with that?
It's might be the most important coverage to have, but the least talked about. You hear life insurance, and life insurance is critical. It's a must-have for just about everybody, especially if there's a marriage or family or assets. But the least talked about coverage is disability income insurance. So kind of close your eyes and think of, what if you had an ATM machine in your garage? Every day it prints money. Wouldn't you?
Where do I sign up for that, by the way? I want to sign up for
that.
Yeah,
right. Wouldn't you insure that against breakage, theft, or would you have a generator hooked up to it in case there was a power outage? Of course you would. You'd make sure that thing was bolted to the floor and working every day. Well, that ATM machine is you. That's you going to work every day and getting a paycheck. So what if you get hurt or get sick and you can't work? Well, your bills are still going to come, but now you have no income. And everybody knows people and families have had that situation happen where something bad happened to a good person and now there's a financial crunch. Wouldn't it make sense then to insure against that risk so that if something did happen, you would still continue to have that income, and even though you can't work and things like that, your bills are being taken care of and your family's being taken care of. Probably the least talked about coverage, but it might be one of the most important ones out there.
And I can tell you from my own personal experience professionally, I have had customers who've had disability insurance and it has completely saved them financially from ruin. And I've had customers who don't have it, and it inevitably leads to a very dark, dangerous place for them financially.
It's not the sexiest topic to talk about. You can't say that, oh, I made 15% in the market last year. No, it's just one of those rocks, one of those foundation things that, especially if you're self-employed, and even if you have employer coverage, that might not be enough. There are certainly limitations on what employers offer. So you should really see your HR department, understand what is available at work, and then add to it or supplement to it with a private policy that would move with you if you change jobs.
Awesome. So one of the things I asked Jim to do on this interview today was obviously being in mortgages and real estate, right? Financing the American dream is what I like to say that I do. One of the hardest things we do is we spend months finding a house, then working with a guy like me to do all the paperwork and get all those pieces in place to get the house. And then it's kind of, that part's done and you're in the house. But what strategies would you give someone, maybe depending on age, right? I've had first-time home buyers that were 60 and I've had first-time home buyers that were 19. What advice would you give someone who's, I mean, that's a huge financial decision, right? And they've got over that first hurdle. What's the first thing they should do after they buy a house?
Take a deep breath, enjoy your new home. It's a major life change, might be the biggest financial purchase of your life, but it's a really good time for a life insurance review. I know as a professional who represents life insurance companies, I know where everybody's life insurance policy is. It's in a manila folder, in the back of a file cabinet, or in a banker box, and you just moved it. But it's probably got cobwebs on it because you haven't looked at it. It's really critical to take a look at your life insurance coverage, because God forbid something happens to, we'll use a married couple as an example. Either spouse, could the surviving spouse stay in that dream home that you just bought? Would they have to sell that perfect property, perfect house that they got into because of something tragic that happened? And we know people that have had to do that. And it's just one of those life-changing moments that for 30 to 45 minutes is well worth the time. Same thing when you get married. That's a perfect time. It's a big life change. Changing jobs, getting divorced, making a move. No, it's not fun and sexy, and nobody really puts on their calendar, oh, it's time for a life insurance review. Yay, break out the party balloons. But it's just one of those things that really need to be done for your peace of mind and being able to lay your head down at night going, if something happened, I know my spouse is going to be able to stay in this house. They'll be okay on a money situation. Obviously it's a big change for the family.
Emotionally.
But at least
sure,
on the financial side, I have peace of mind knowing that I've taken care of my family.
Well, Jim, I just want to say thank you. One of the things I enjoy most about you and about Sierra Financial Services is your approach to your business is very similar to mine. And that is that there's no such thing as a one size fits all, right? Like mortgages can be sometimes very cookie cutter. And I always like to take the time to say, I'm either going to help you get into a house or I'm going to establish a plan to get you into a house. Like we're going to do one or the other. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about you all is you'll sit down with your customers and help them design a plan for wherever they may be in the areas we've talked about or some other areas we haven't talked about. I would like to ask you one last thing before we wrap this up. I know that one of the things that is really a passion of yours is you give back to the community quite a bit, and you do a lot of that through educational classes. Talk to me about that a little bit.
I'm very strong believer of you can't have enough education about topics. So I've actually been able to go into some of the school community education departments at Badger, Bigfoot, and Elkhorn and be able to put on hour-long classes around Medicare and Social Security. Just a very informal 60 minutes, just kind of the basics to get those conversations started and provide that education, no cost, no obligation. We don't lock the door. We don't make people sign blank forms. Get the education of the people so they can now move forward and make the choice that best fits them. I was on the school board. My wife is a teacher. Education is kind of in my blood, I guess.
Big deal in your house.
It's a big deal, and I think it's an important part of working with people is get them the information and allow them to make the choice that best fits them.
Well, Jim, thank you so much. Thank you for being on the Local Business Spotlight. I also want to say thank you to Jim and the Sierra Financial team. I have a big event coming up, a modern marketing event coming up on September 5th at the Lake Geneva Library. And you all were very gracious in your sponsorship, so I'm very, very grateful for that. The contact information, I put it in the description to get a hold of you. Mm-hmm. They can call the office and schedule an appointment. They can email you.
Sure.
I get some of these things are sensitive and are not probably for public consumption. By all means, reach out to Jim. You're going to find he's the guy that you're seeing in the video is the guy that he really is. He's a very humble, genuine, passionate guy about what he does, and the truest of professionals. I'm grateful. I know my customers, when they have an opportunity to meet with you, are always very grateful. So thank you for what you do. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Travis, for giving me a little bit of time today. Happy to sit down with anybody at any time, have a cup of coffee, and just talk about ideas. And the education that we can provide is really the foundation. So again, thanks for allowing me to come in and talk on camera. Not something I do all the time, but much appreciated.
Well, thank you all for watching. Once again, if you want to get a hold of Jim, his contact information is in the description. I would highly recommend you do. I do not believe for a moment that you will have any disappointment about that. He is what he says he is, and his team is exceptional here. So thanks again. Thanks for watching this week's Local Business Spotlight. Talk to you soon.